I never imagined I'd find myself tangled in a neighborhood feud that would end with police lights flashing in my driveway, but life in Willow Creek had a way of surprising you. My name's Ethan Harper, and for the past 3 years, I've called this picturesque suburb VY Shown home perfectly trimmed hedges, annual block parties, and a homeowners association that could make a saint lose their patience. At the heart of it all was Linda Prescott, the HOA president who ruled with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Mid-50s, with a sleek blonde bob and designer sunglasses perpetually perched on her head, Linda was the kind of woman who could smile while twisting the knife. It all began with a modest backyard garden. I'd always wanted to grow my own food, nothing extravagant, just some zucchini, basil, and a few bell peppers. The HOA bylaws were clear: gardens were fine as long as they weren't visible from the street. My little plot was tucked neatly behind my house, shielded by a tall fence, so I didn't give it a second thought. 3 days after I planted the last seedling, a crisp envelope arrived in my mailbox. Unauthorized landscape modification, it declared, slapping me with a $150 fine. I stared at the notice, baffled. How did Linda even know about my garden? It wasn't like she could see it from the sidewalk. The answer came the next morning. Glancing out my kitchen window, I froze. There was Linda, bold as brass, standing in my backyard with a measuring tape, scribbling furiously on a clipboard. My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to stay calm as I stepped outside. "Linda, what exactly are you doing on my property?" I asked, my voice steady despite the heat rising in my chest. She didn't even blink. Turning to me with that infuriatingly smug smile, she waved a dismissive hand. "Just ensuring your little saw project complies with HOA standards, Ethan," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "You know the rules. All modifications need board approval." I clenched my jaw. "The bylaws say gardens are allowed if they're not visible from the street. Mine's hidden. And more importantly, you can't just waltz onto my property. That's trespassing." Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something, anger, maybe, or calculation. "As HOA president," she snapped, "I have the authority to inspect violations. It's in the contract you signed." I knew she was bluffing. I'd pored over that contract before buying the house, anticipating someone like her. "Show me where it says that," I challenged, crossing my arms. "Because I'm pretty sure it doesn't." Linda's face flushed a deep crimson. "I don't have to justify myself to you," she hissed, tucking her clipboard under her arm. "Fix this garden, or the fines will keep coming." With that, she spun on her heel and stormed through my side gate, her heels sinking into the grass. I stood there, fuming but resolute. That night, I pulled out the HOA contract and confirmed what I suspected. Not only was there no clause granting her free rein to invade private property, but the rules explicitly required 24-hour notice and homeowner consent for inspections. Armed with this, I fired off a polite email to the entire HOA board, laying out the situation, attaching the relevant contract sections, and requesting the violation be dropped since Linda had trespassed to issue it. I thought that would settle things. I was dead wrong. 2 days later, I came home to find 3 new violation notices plastered on my front door like scarlet letters. One claimed, "Improper trash can storage." My cans were neatly stowed in my garage. Another cited an unapproved vehicle in my driveway, my own car, registered with the HOA years ago. The third accused me of failing to maintain lawn standards, despite my lawn being the envy of the block. This wasn't just petty, it was personal. Linda was waging war, and I wasn't about to roll over. I decided to fight fire with procedure. At the next HOA meeting, I stood before the board and a room full of neighbors, presenting my case with photos of my pristine lawn, my garage trash cans, and my approved car. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Others had tasted Linda's wrath and were starting to connect the dots. "This feels like harassment," I said, keeping my tone measured. "I'm asking the board to address this fairly." The other board members shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting to Linda, who sat at the head of the table, her smile as sharp as a blade. "If you'd simply followed the rules, Ethan," she said, her voice syrupy with mock sympathy, "you wouldn't be in this mess." The room fell silent. No one challenged her. Not yet. After that, Linda turned our dispute into a crusade. She seemed to lurk around every corner, her clipboard ready to invent new infractions. I wasn't naive enough to think this would stop on its own, so I upped my game. I installed security cameras around my property, covering every angle, and kept a detailed log of every interaction. For a while, it was quiet too quiet. Then, 2 weeks later, my phone pinged with a security alert while I was working from home. I opened the live feed and felt my blood run cold. There was Linda, back in my yard, not just measuring my garden but creeping toward my back windows, her measuring tape glinting as she tried to peer inside. I grabbed my phone and dialed the non-emergency police line, my voice calm but firm. "Someone's trespassing on my property. I have video of them trying to look into my windows." I didn't mention Linda's title. I wanted the cops to see this for what it was. While waiting, I stepped outside, my heart pounding. Linda was now measuring the gap between my air conditioner and the property line, muttering to herself. "Linda," I said, my voice cutting through the air, "you need to leave. Now. The police are on their way." She whirled around, her face a mask of outrage. "How dare saw you?" she sputtered. "I'm conducting official HOA business." "No," I shot back. "You're trespassing. This is the second time you've done this, and there's nothing in the HOA contract that gives you the right. Leave, or explain it to the officers." Her expression shifted shock, then fury, then a chilling smirk. "You don't get it, do you?" she said, her voice low and venomous. "I've run this neighborhood for 10 years. You think anyone's going to side with you over me?" I held her gaze, unflinching. "I don't need sides," I said. "I need the law." She laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "This is civil, not criminal. A slap on the wrist, at worst. Worth it to keep people like you in line." I didn't respond. I just started recording her on my phone, letting her words dig her own grave. When the police arrived 15 minutes later, Linda transformed. Gone was the venom. In its place was a saccharine charm. "Officers, thank goodness," she gushed, clasping her hands. "This is just a misunderstanding." I wasn't playing her game. I showed the officers my security footage, clear shots of Linda sneaking into my yard twice, including her attempt to peer through my windows. I handed them a copy of the HOA contract, highlighting the clause that barred Union v. TED inspections. What Linda didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that in our state, entering someone's property with intent to snoop on their private life wasn't just trespassing. It could qualify as attempted breaking and entering, especially since she tried to look inside my home. Her HOA title? It meant nothing to the law. The officers pulled her aside, their voices low. I couldn't hear them, but I saw Linda's face drain of color. Then, in a moment I'll never forget, they slipped handcuffs onto her wrists. "Wait, what's happening?" she shrieked, her voice hitting a pitch that could shatter glass. "This is absurd. I'm the HOA president." One officer, unfazed, explained. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for criminal trespass and attempted breaking and entering. You entered private property without permission after being warned, and you tried to VYEW a private residence without consent." Linda's eyes locked onto mine, blazing with hatred. "You saw this," she hissed as they led her to the patrol car. "You won't get away with it." I said nothing. The EVY Denke was louder than any comeback. The fallout was swift and brutal. Linda's arrest hit the local news, and suddenly, I wasn't alone. 5 other homeowners came forward, each with their own stories of Linda's trespassing and harassment. The district attorney saw a pattern and decided to make an example of her. She faced charges of criminal trespass, harassment, and attempted breaking and entering. With no prior record, she took a plea deal, 6 months probation, a DU Law $5,000 fine, and community service. A restraining order barred her from coming near my property, and the HOA board, humiliated by the scandal, voted her out unanimously. Her real estate firm, smelling liability, put her on indefinite leave. In court, as the judge announced the fine, Linda's composure cracked. "I was just doing my job," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The judge leaned forward, his tone like steel. "Your job doesn't include breaking the law or violating people's privacy. Let this be a lesson: authority doesn't trump accountability." As Linda was led away, her usual swagger gone, I felt no triumph, just a quiet relief. Willow Creek could finally breathe again, free from the shadow of her petty tyranny. But in the back of my mind, I knew the scars of her reign would linger, a reminder that power, unchecked, could turn a neighbor into a nightmare.